Well, good morning. I have another book I'd like to share. This is a really cool book because it gives us a lot of facts and information about Texas. So if you live in Texas, there may be some things you hear, some information you learn that you didn't already know. And if you don't live in Texas, it'll give you some information about my state. And I hope you enjoy it. In addition, once a teacher, always a teacher. And even though I'm retired, I still like teaching whenever I have an opportunity. And I want you to pay a particular attention. This story is written with a letter and then the song. So it's a letter and then a song. And it's a little girl that is writing her parents about a trip she's taking. I want you to notice the way the little girl closes her letters. She closes them differently depending on what the body of the letter was about. And so I think that's a good point to share with your children. Here we go. The 12 Days of Christmas in Texas. It's written and illustrated by Janie, Bynum. And here's a map. And there's Texas, pretty big state. Hola, Ashley. Are you ready to see Texas? I think you'll like the warm, sunny days we're having this winter. I can't wait to celebrate the 12 days of Christmas with you. Since Mom and Dad will be staying home with the new baby, Juanita and Lito planned quite an adventure for us. We'll be taking a road trip all over this huge state. Did you know that Texas is larger than New England, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Illinois combined? Lito says he and Juanita will take turns at the wheel, even driving all night, so we can cover as much highway as possible. We have the best grandparents ever. Juanita wants to rent a cabana on the Gulf of Mexico. I love the beach in the wintertime because I don't have to share the shells with the summer tourists. You know how I love seashells. Feliz Navidad, your cousin Jose. Here they go. And Juanita and Lito are Grandma and Grandpa. Howdy, y'all. Flying for the first time was amazing. Lito and Jose picked me up at the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, while Juanita prepared a Texas-sized feast. We ate barbecue, corn on the cob, and homemade pecan pie. The nuts came from their pecan tree out back. Lito told us how he used to have to fight the squirrels for the nuts. But this past November, instead of waiting for the pecans to fall to the ground, he tapped the limbs with a padded stick, while Jose and Juanita gathered the ones that fell. Looks like Lito is going to be eating lots of pecan pie this year. As we sat on the porch, I heard a bird singing a bunch of different songs instead of just one. High up in the limbs of the big pecan tree, a pretty gray and white mockingbird was sitting and singing all those songs. Juanita said that Senor Boca must have come out to welcome me to Texas, since mockingbirds don't normally sing much in the winter months. Jose told me that mockingbirds can even mock the sounds of barking dogs and ringing telephones. Now that's something I'd like to hear. Hugs and kisses, Ashley. I really missed Juanita's cooking. On the first day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me a mockingbird in a nut tree. Dear Mom and Dad, you won't believe how many pictures Juanita has painted since Lito built her a studio. The walls are covered with beautiful fields of bluebonnets and swarms of monarch butterflies. Juanita is fascinated by the state flower and the state butterfly. I wish I could see a field of real bluebonnets, but they only bloom from mid-March through May. Juanita's paintings are almost as good as seeing the real thing, and a picture lasts much longer. The monarch butterflies haven't come back from their vacation yet. Millions of them spend the winter months on the same 12 mountain tops in central Mexico every year. Jose told me that the monarchs fly back to Texas every spring. He counts all the butterflies he sees around his yard and reports how many he finds on a monarch migration website. He says that this helps scientists track the monarchs each year. Juanita and Jose are members of the Lepidopterist Society. That's a fancy name for the National Butterfly Club, so they know a lot about monarch butterflies. Your budding lepidopterist. P.S. I want to raise butterflies. On the second day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 2 butterflies and a mockingbird in a nut tree. Dear Mom and Dad, when we left on our road trip, Lito drove us right by the State Fair of Texas. Do you know which extremely tall Texan greets the visitors there? Big Tex. There he is. A very friendly-looking 52-foot cowboy statue. The Texas state motto is friendship, and the word Texas or Tejas comes from a Native American word meaning friends. Obviously, Big Tex is a perfect symbol for this friendly state. The farther east we drove, the more the land changed from flat plains to pretty green hills with groves of tall trees. Some were huge pecan trees. Before I knew it, we arrived in Tyler, the rose capital of the nation, where we toured the Tyler Rose Museum. The Tyler Municipal Rose Garden is the nation's largest rose garden with nearly 40,000 rose bushes. Tyler roses are famous all over the world. More than half of the nation's rose bushes come from this area, and every October they hold the Texas Rose Festival, where they crown a rose queen. I bet everything smells like roses during that festival. Fragrantly yours, Ashley. P.S. Juanita doesn't know we bought her a rose bush. It's hidden in the trunk. On the third day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 3 rosebuds, 2 butterflies, and a mockingbird in a nut tree. Dear Mom and Dad, today things just get better and better. Today we drove through the largest city in Texas. The skyscrapers in downtown Houston were so tall and shiny, it looked like they were made of mirrors. Lito surprised us with a detour to NASA's Johnson Space Center, where we watched a movie about space travel on an enormous 5-story screen. For a minute there, I thought we were really blasting off into space. And we made it to the Gulf of Mexico today. Lito and Juanita took us to a restaurant on one of the piers where we ate fried shrimp as big as my hand. Jose says that during the summer you can sit outside and watch the shrimp boats return with their day's catch. You won't believe this, but it was 75 degrees today. We spent the whole afternoon at the beach. I love how the air smells here like salt in the sea. Jose and I combed the beach and we found lots of interesting shells, including some lightning whelks. Juanita told us that the lightning whelk is a state seashell and is named for its zigzaggy stripes. I can't wait to show you. Your beachcomber, Ashley. P.S. Jose gave me the sand dollar he found. On the 4th day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 4 lightning whelks, 3 rosebuds, 2 butterflies, and a mockingbird in a nut tree. Dear Mom and Dad, did you know that the Texas State Capitol building in Austin is made of pink granite and stands even taller than the United States Capitol? When I stood on the gigantic star in the middle of the floor, I looked way up to the top. I got dizzy. As we drove out of town, Juanita cranked up the radio and we sang along with Willie Nelson's song, On the Road Again. I never heard of him, but Jose says he's a really famous singer from Texas. Live music is so popular in Austin that they call it the live music capital of the world. In this part of Texas, you can see why the prickly pear cactus was named the state plant. It grows everywhere, poking out of the rocks, even growing upside down from limestone cliffs. Almost every part of the prickly pear cactus is edible, except for the spines, of course. Locals eat the pads or nopales like a vegetable, and the fruit can even be made into candy. During this trip, Jose and I have been counting pickup trucks on the highways. We stopped at a truck show so Lito could show us an old pickup like one he used to drive. A man there told us that Texas leads the nation in the sale of pickup trucks. I believe him. On the road again, Ashley. On the 5th day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 5 pickup trucks, 4 lightning whelks, 3 rosebuds, 2 butterflies, and a mockingbird in a nut tree. Dear Mom and Dad, I finally got to see the Alamo. I learned that Remember the Alamo was what Sam Houston's troops yelled at the Battle of San Jacinto, where Texians finally won their independence from Mexico. Can you believe that Texas has been ruled by 6 different nations? Flags from Spain, France, Mexico, the Republic of Texas, the Confederate State of America, and the United States of America have all flown here. Since the state flag is red, white, and blue with a single star, it makes sense that we call Texas the Lone Star State. Oh, I ate so much today I had to take a siesta. For lunch, we celebrated with Juanita's favorite Tex-Mex Christmas tradition, tamales. We ate downtown on a dining boat while we floated on the San Antonio River. Then we went shopping at some of the stores along the river. This part of the river is called the Paseo del Rio, or the River Walk. And every April during Fiesta, decorated boats parade through the town on the river. Someday I'd like to see that. Remembering the Alamo, Ashley. P.S. Juanita told me that Alamo is a Spanish word that means cottonwood tree. On the 6th day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 6 flags a flying, 5 pickup trucks, 4 lightning whelks, 3 rosebuds, 2 butterflies, and a mockingbird in a nut tree. Dear Mom and Dad, Jose and I are having the best time with Juanita and Lito. This morning we went spelunking. That's cave exploring. We walked down into the cool cavern with a tour guide, don't worry, and saw stalactites and stalagmites and a 100-foot waterfall inside. Many caves around central Texas are home to millions of bats for 9 months of the year. I wish the bats had been at home, but they spend their winters further south, just like the monarch butterflies. After lunch, we went fishing on the Guadalupe River. In the warmer months, Texans go tubing here. They rent big inner tubes upriver and then float downriver, sometimes for miles. I have to come back in the summer so I can try that. Lito and I didn't catch as many fish as Juanita and Jose, but we landed the largest. Lito helped me reel it in. Another name for the black bass we caught is the Guadalupe bass. Jose said that he's been fishing with Lito for years on this river and never knew that the bass they loved to catch was the state fish. Swimmingly yours, Ashley. P.S. My fish weighed 2 pounds. On the 7th day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 7 bass a swimming, 6 flags a flying, 5 pickup trucks, 4 lightning whelks, 3 rosebuds, 2 butterflies, and a mockingbird in a nut tree. Dear Mom and Dad, on our way south, we talked Lito into stopping at the Texas State Aquarium in Corpus Christi. The sea turtle sanctuary was my favorite exhibit. Or maybe the otters were my favorite. I loved watching them play. They are so smart. Lito said it was time to meet some real live longhorns. So this afternoon we toured the King Ranch, the largest cattle ranch in the country. The name Longhorn sure does fit these animals since some steer horns span over 6 feet. Our guide told us that way back in the 1800s, Richard King, a riverboat captain, started this huge Longhorn ranch. The King Ranch now covers 825,000 acres and is bigger than the state of Rhode Island. From 1867 to 1884, some of the ranch's longhorn cattle were driven by cowboys along the Chisholm Trail, which ran from the Rio Grande to central Kansas. Because of these cattle drives, the cowboy became a symbol for the West and especially for Texas. Whoopee-tie-yo, Ashley. Jose thinks he's a cowboy. On the 8th day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 8 grazing longhorns, 7 bass a swimming, 6 flags a flying, 5 pickup trucks, 4 lightning whelks, 3 rosebuds, 2 butterflies, and a mockingbird in a nut tree. Dear Mom and Dad, we set up camp in Big Bend National Park today. The views are incredible. Until now, I didn't even know that Texas had mountains and canyons. Jose and I explored a flat, rocky area while Juanita and Lito relaxed in the sun. And guess what else was relaxing on the warm rocks? A fat little horned lizard, which is a state reptile. He looked just like a miniature dinosaur. We were lucky to see him since there aren't too many horned lizards in that park. 22 species of lizards live in Big Bend National Park, including the Texas banded gecko. At dinner time, I met one up close and personal. It leaped onto my arm, then ran across my sandwich. Ew! Tonight, as I started writing this letter, I heard a strange snuffling sound next to me. When Jose and I peeked outside, we saw a large family of javelinas munching the prickly pear cactus right outside our tent. Javelinas look like wild hairy pigs, but they're just cousins to the pig. Once they caught a whiff of us, they took off in a cloud of dust. Lito says that javelinas can't see well, so they use their sense of smell to sense danger. Wide awake now, Ashley. On the 9th day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 9 leaping lizards, 8 grazing longhorns, 7 bass a swimming, 6 flags a flying, 5 pickup trucks, 4 lightning whelks, 3 rosebuds, 2 butterflies, and a mockingbird in a nut tree. Dear Mom and Dad, on our way to the Panhandle from Big Bend, Jose and I counted 10 armadillos. Even though they look a little like reptiles with all those plates and scales, armadillos aren't related to lizards and snakes. They are mammals and distant cousins of the anteater. Lito told us that armadillos are good swimmers, but they sometimes cross a river by swallowing air so they can float across, or they just walk on the river bottom. Underwater. They sure are funny little creatures. Have you ever heard of a wind farm? I hadn't until we passed by one today in West Texas. The turbine towers are gigantic. Some are over 300 feet tall. That's as tall as a 30-story building. The blades on top look like huge white pinwheels. They twirl in the wind like old-time windmills and generate electricity. And windy West Texas is a perfect spot for them. From Midland, Juanita drove north while Lito napped. Gosh, he snores loud. Juanita surprised us all with a trip to the Cadillac Ranch near Amarillo. Lito laughed and laughed. None of us had ever seen graffiti-covered Cadillacs, especially not nose down in a field. Your Cadillac kid, Ashley. P.S. Lito said he's going to paint his Cadillac. Juanita doesn't think so. On the 10th day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 10 armadillos, 9 leaping lizards, 8 grazing longhorns, 7 basses swimming, 6 flags a flying, 5 pickup trucks, 4 lightning whelks, 3 rosebuds, 2 butterflies, and a mockingbird in a nut tree. You see the windmills? Dear Mom and Dad, on our way back to the Metroplex, that's what Texans call the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we took a little detour to Glen Rose. We stopped at Dinosaur Valley where we got to see real fossilized dinosaur tracks. They were enormous. A bunch of dinosaurs roamed Texas more than 100 million years ago. In 1908, a big flood caused the land to shift and buckle, and about a year later, a local teenager named Ernest Adams discovered dinosaur tracks in a branch of the Paluxy River. I wish that could have been me. In 1938, a paleontologist named Ronald T. Burr discovered more dinosaur footprints in that same area. Scientists now think that the carnivore Acrocanthosaurus atokinesis made most of the tracks around Dinosaur Valley State Park, and that it may have been the only giant carnivore of its time. It was slightly smaller than T-Rex and lived in the early Cretaceous period, 110 million years ago. That's about 45 million years before T-Rex. I guess I got a little carried away with the dinosaur facts, but you know how much I love dinosaurs. Maybe I'll be a paleontologist when I grow up. Having a roaring good time, Ashley. P.S. Juanita helped me spell the really big words. On the 11th day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 11 dino fossils, 10 armadillos, 9 leaping lizards, 8 grazing longhorns, 7 basses swimming, 6 flags a flying, 5 pickup trucks, 4 lightning whelks, 3 rosebuds, 2 butterflies, and a mockingbird in a nut tree. Dear Mom and Dad, you wouldn't believe all the incredible cowboy art we saw at the Ammon Center Museum in Fort Worth. My favorites were the bronze sculptures of Native Americans and cowboys by Frederick Remington and Charles Russell, artists who lived in the late 1800s and early 1900s. I could see every wrinkle and fold in those cowboys' clothes. Then we went to see a rodeo at the Fort Worth stockyards. Lito told us that the first rodeo in history took place in 1881 in Pecos, Texas. Hooves, dirt, and hats flew. Eventually, so did most of the cowboys when the Broncos bucked off their riders. Only a few of the cowboys finished their 8-second rides. Juanita told us that Lito used to ride in rodeos. I never knew that about my abuelo. Jose and I bought matching cowboy boots and pretended we were bronc riders like Lito. Later, we danced at Billy Bob's, Texas, the largest honky-tonk in the world. Honky-tonk is another name for a dance hall. Billy Bob's covers 3 acres and can hold more than 6,000 people. It even has its own indoor rodeo. You should have seen Lito and Juanita. They waltzed and 2-stepped all over that big dance floor. Abrazos y besos, Ashley. P.S. I can't wait to take another Texas road trip. On the 12th day of Christmas, my cousin gave to me 12 bucking broncos, 11 dino fossils, 10 armadillos, 9 leaping lizards, 8 grazing longhorns, 7 bass swimming, 6 flags flying, 5 pickup trucks, 4 lightning bugs, 3 rosebuds, 2 butterflies, and a mockingbird in a nut tree. So, I hope you enjoyed the 12 days of Christmas in Texas and learned a lot about Texas, plus also learned a lot about how to write a good letter to someone. And now would be a good time to write a relative and give him that information and of what you're doing, what you're learning, and ask questions about them and bring them close to your world and to what you're doing. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day. Bye.